Start telling me about why they changed to from the 9-inch to whatever. The guy with the planes.
The 40s. They had the 40s.
And you were on them.
They set me up there. I was one of the guys that handed the ammunition to the guy that's right up there on the pedestal, and I hand it to him. He puts it in a gun. They fire it, and I keep handing him ammunition. And the plane started coming out. We had all the guns loaded, and this plane started coming out, and it got out just so far that they could see what was down in the water, and all our guns that are for the fight the air swung around and aimed at him. He's the fastest I ever seen an airplane make a U-turn and go back in at the shore and get out of there.
And you were on the Battleship New Jersey.
I was on the Battleship New Jersey, and after that we never got in the airplane, so they put the 40s to sleep, and they took me and stuck me in a 5-inch gun. And the 5-inch gun works with a man up at top. It's got like handlebars, and he's got the scope right in front of him like you would on a rifle, and he brings it where he wants it after we load it, and then he fires it because he's the one aiming the gun and actually firing it. So we were loading it, and I was shoving in the tip of it looks like a big bullet, the shell that goes when you fire. I shove it in. The guy's right next to me, across from me. He shoves in the powder case, which looks like the back of a bullet, and that's where the powder's in. He shoves that in, and as soon as he shoves that in, I slam the hatch shut, and it's secured. And then we have this man that's in the Navy. He's communicating with the man on the gun, and he tells him load it and ready to fire. So the guy goes, and all he does is aim it, and he pushes the button, and the shell goes. And then we do the same thing over again, load it again. And we're loading it, and the one guy slipped with the casing for the powder. He went and pushed it in, and I was going to slam it, and he's got his hand in the way, and I couldn't slam it fast enough. So the case came back out, and I slammed it, kept the shell in there, and the thing dropped down. Well, the guy that was giving the instructions to the guy on top thought he saw it when he was watching us. We were fast at loading it. He figured it was loaded because he saw me slam the thing, and he gave the guy the okay to fire, but it was going to fire nothing because the powder case was it was down behind the butt of the gun, and it looks like a big butt that you have on a 45, and it came down and bent the thing. It caught the thing because the guy was bringing the handlebars down. Our butt of the gun was coming down. He was raising it up, and it pushes down on the butt, and it hit the powder cake, and it started bending it. And I was looking at it. I figured this is going to go, and we're all dead. And the guy saw what was happening, that was communicating, and told him, get off it, give us command. So the guy shut down the handlebars. We get right away, the guy that was in there brought the butt back up, and it was bent like a V. And I went to grab for it, and the other fellow that was next to me that puts it in grabbed it quick and hollered out of the way, and another fellow jumped down, opened the hatch, and they threw it out on the deck. Then one fellow jumped out after it, and he got on it, and he took it and he threw it over the side of the ship because the ship was moving, and it just hit the water and disappeared. But they all got back in, and we started all over again. But for that first split second, when that was bending, I figured if that blows, I'm dead. I'm standing looking right at it. Mm-hmm. But luckily, nothing happened.
This was the Korean War.
Yeah, and after that, we had no problem. But the two Navy buglers, they call them field music fellas, they didn't like being up on the bridge because they said if a shell ever hits the bridge, it was just light metal, mm-hmm. enough to secure against the storms and that. But a shell from the shore, we're shooting 16-inch guns. They're 16 inches around, and they're firing 20s. They're 20-inch guns they got. They brought them out from a mountainside. They had a open there, and they would bring them out and fire them at us. Well, they came. We were in there, and they just sent me up to the bridge, and I was on the bridge, and they down below were doing the firing, and we had the Marines that were running the show on the shore, and they were giving us where to fire and when to fire. All I had to do then is play all the calls. I sounded the attention for them to get the battle stations. I stopped them.
Because the other two buglers didn't want to be up there.
They didn't want to be up on the bridge.
So you ended up doing all the battle.
Being a Marine, they stuck me in the 5-inch. They figure he's a Marine. He's got to fire. He's supposed to do the killing. So they stuck me in with a bunch of Marines. And then they took me out. And I ended up on the bridge, and when the captain heard me sounded calls, he was asking for different calls, and the two Navy boys didn't do it like we did. I think it was like 163 calls, and I knew them all by heart because I played trumpet, and when I got there, it was simple for me to memorize these little numbers they played. What I did is I sparked up the fit when they had the call for movie on the after quarter decks, okay, or on the stern. I would jump on the play the bugle like a trumpet, and it's supposed to be maybe about 2 minute, not even a minute call. It moves real fast, but I jived it up, and it took me 3.5 minutes to play it. So they all would be taking their time getting to the back because they used to run. By the time the thing gets done, you got no seats back there. So I used to play it fast and jazz it up, and they used to run. They used to just walk back, take their time because nobody was running. They knew what was going on, and they wanted to listen to what I was playing. And we have on the deck calls. You can hear the bugle all over the ship, and the captain liked it the first time I did it. And he wanted to know what the hell was that. And one officer, a young officer, was on watch. He said, "That's the movie call." He said, "I never heard movie call like that, but you keep that bugler up there. We see what else you can do." So I was the captain's bugler. He didn't ask for the Navy. He made it between the captain and the Marines and him, an order that the Marine bugler would come up here when we had battle stations or anything special. I want him up on the deck. So I didn't have to do anything but go up on the bridge. Mm-hmm. And
then you told the other buglers, I can dive into the water if you're going to sink with the ship.
I told them, I said, if the shell doesn't, I said the shell did hit once, but it hit the top of the turret. It bounced off it like a ball. It hit the side of the shell. It was coming. We heard it coming in, and it was loud. And when it went wham, and up in the air it went and down in the water. And thank God it didn't blow up because we would have got a lot of the shrapnel from the top of the gun. And we know it was bounced. Well, we moved. After that, they put it into gear, and they moved 38, I think it's 38 miles an hour, and they're dragging 38 feet of ship under the water, but they moved, and you could feel it cutting through the water, even in the storms. We used to go, the whole bow would go underwater and come up, and the wave would slap against the windows that are listed on the bridge. And above us, there's a second bridge, and all the admirals and the officials go up there, and some of the officers go up there to see what their duties are when they're on duty. So we had them above us, but the shells, they used to aim for the bridge because that's where you had the steering.
Right.
And they figured that once they blow that up, we have to go. But they do have another section they can still work the ship. Mm-hmm. As long as, the bridge, we all could be dead, but they would still be able to maintain the...
How many feet did it move when you left it?
How many? What was that? What was that question?
When you fired your shells,
yeah.
How many feet did the ship move, the Jersey move in the water?
When we fired a 9-gun salvo, and that's power. That's 9 guns shooting all at the same time. They ordered the order, open fire, and at that fire, them buttons are pressed and every one of them cannons go off. We moved 6 feet sideways in the water, and she's dragging 38 feet of steel. But she moves 6 foot back, and if you're up on the bridge, you bend with the force of it. But the idea is when them 9 shells hit the shore, they obliterate whatever they're going for, because they're all aiming for a certain spot, just a few feet, a few miles out of the way. But they let them all go, and we had a place called Anchor Hill. When we got done with it, the Marines called it Anchor Flats, because we took half the mountain off when we were firing, when the enemy was on their side. They used to dig their trenches. It was a circle. On the opposite, on the right side, if you're facing it from the ship, on the right side was the Marines and the Army, whatever was over there fighting against them, and on the opposite side was the enemy and theirs. And the trenches were dug that they're right near each other. They could jump over and get in. So you always had to have a guard at the end. So if any of the enemy go to come over, you shoot them right away. And he had to be able to shoot. You couldn't think twice. You saw him, you shoot him. You don't hesitate, because he's going to shoot you. So that's the way it worked aboard the ship. And for the rest of my duties on there, I had to be on there special days, holidays, and actually I was getting up every morning at 5 o'clock because the Navy wanted to sleep in. I was taking them, the Marine Corporal or Sergeant was on duty, would come down and wake me up, and I'd have to get up on the bridge and sound reveille, and then I'd have to sound for the breakfast, and then retire from it. They have all kinds of calls that you have to know and you have to play. And after a while, all the sailors and the Marines got to learn what call. They hear it and they say, "Oh, I know what that was," and they run it. They get up and go, whatever it is. Like when I play for them to go to breakfast, they'd wait for that call. As soon as they heard it, they know, and they all rush down to get first in the seats.
You played the call when Xavier Cougar came on.
Oh, yeah.
Tell what happened that day. You can't remember that?
I can't remember that, but I know that when he came aboard, we gave him a signal like we would for an officer coming, an admiral or someone coming aboard. I'd sound attention, and then the boatswain mate, he had that little whistle there. I would play the call. He would play that call he had for attention, and then it would go like a whirr, and then he'd give the order what was going on. And all the guys that were boatswain mates, we got to be very friendly, and they used to look out for me. And a lot of times when we were out to sea after we were in battle, they would tell me, like the one guy would come and say, "Hey, Teddy, why don't you just go outside on a bridge and enjoy the view and the weather, and if they want you, I'll rush and get you right away," because we had the speaker on the outside too. So he was a boatswain mate for the time he was on. They were going on like 4 hours. I was there all day and night because I spent most of my time there, and I used to go to. They only used to relieve me when I went to eat. They would come up and in case they need a call, they would be there. But as soon as I got done eating, I'd be back up on the bridge, and they'd go back to their whatever they were doing. So for me to be on the ship, I was always playing.
Talk about the time when the shrapnel came and caught the guy, and he got a purple medal, Purple Heart or something for it.
Oh, the one guy got a piece of metal. He opened the hatch. We had the 20s fired at us, and they blew up in the air. I don't know what they were doing, but they were blowing up in the air, and that way they were scattering the metal.
Right.
I don't know how they worked them shells, but that's what we get out of the way when we know they were shooting them shells, because they do a lot of damage. And the one guy, the one shell came in and blew, and you heard this wham, zing, bang, boom, and it sounded like somebody pounding on the hatch. So this idiot goes to the hatch, opens it up, and the second one that came over blew up, and a piece of shrapnel came right across his right shoulder, as he was hanging out the thing, hanging on the door. It went right across his shoulder, bounced off, and luckily it bounced and went that way. If it had come in this way, it would have killed him. It took his shoulder, scratched put a nice cut in his shoulder, hit the metal, and bounced to the left of him. And he was standing there with his mouth wide open, and they're hollering for him to shut the hatch. And the one guy says, "My God, he's bleeding." And he went and he grabbed him, pulled him in, because he was in shock. He didn't know what happened. He went over there and pushed him out of the way and slammed the hatch and put the all the dogs on so that it wouldn't move open. And of course, the guy that was there with the earphones and a speaker in his hand, he was looking with his mouth dropped up, and then he finally caught what was going on. He said, "We got a man wounded here." And they're wondering, how the hell did he get wounded in a 5-inch gun? And of course, the captain, when he heard it, he started laughing. When we were, after that scene was over, we were going out of the way, out in the sea. And the one guy was explaining to him, and he thought it was funny too, because the look on the guy's face, they asked the one Marine that was watching, and he told the story, exactly what happened. And the guy was always that kind of guy. He wanted to see what was going on outside, and you're not allowed to open them hatches because you don't know what's flying around. And he finally found out what was around, and they took him out of the 5-inch and sent him below deck. They didn't bring him up no more. They're afraid that it might come in and come around and kill a couple of us, bouncing off the walls. And he got a medal for wounded in action.
For being a jerk.
The only guy, well, the captain said, "Oh, look good, we got one man, somebody with a medal for being wounded." And he actually got him a medal, for wounded in action. And his excuse was he wanted to know if it was going to be burning and we should get out of it. Well, you don't open the hatch to find that out. You wait till it's burned, then you open the hatch.
When it gets good and hot.
Yeah, then you get out.
Then you get out.
But that was, we all looked at him like we didn't believe what he was doing. He's opening the hatch, and we're standing there. We're hearing the
You're
booms.
under fire, and they're exploding shrapnel all over the deck of the ship.
And it's bouncing off the ship, and you could hear it zing across this metal, slide across the metal.
Yeah, you can hear it sliding outside.
If a guy was out there and that thing was flying, you're dead meat.
Yeah.
And this kid, he was a nosy kid. He wanted to see what everything was going on, even when we were in battle. A lot of the times
Was his name Geraldo Rivera?
I don't know what that.
I'm just joking.
Yeah, I don't know what his name is. I don't remember his name.
You don't even remember who Geraldo Rivera is.
All I remember is that they took him out, and he never was brought in a 5-inch again. He never came back.
What about the time that the gun misfired over you in the bunks?
Oh, it was early morning. They were coming down to get me up, because like I say, I played the reveille in all the calls all day long, and right up to night, put them to sleep. And the sergeant coming down, he was just horsing around. They were clowning and stuff like that. And he's going in the thing, and he's going to put his pistol away, and it's loaded. It's ready to fire. Yeah. Whenever I wore a .45, there was a bullet ready to go, and the chamber, and the rest of the bullets were ready to pop in space. And I said, I'm not going to carry a pistol and not be ready. If somebody takes a shot at me, what do I do? Load my gun then? No, I have it. And I could snap a pistol out of my holster by using my 2 fingers. I would pop the lid, and with the trigger finger, I'd whip the .45 out, spin it, I'd just whip it out, bring it out, and I'm squeezing the trigger already. Yeah. I could shoot. And if somebody shot me and missed, they were dead meat, because I could fire that pistol, and I knew how to handle it. And I forgot what it was.
With the kid that misfire down in the bunk.
The sergeant comes down.
You were sleeping on something.
And I'm sleeping on the 3rd rack up high. There's 3 racks, one on top of the other. And you just got, it's about 20 inches apart, and you slide in. When you get up, you slide in your bunk. I used to have to step on 2 bunks and pop in the top. And I was laying with my arms hanging over like this, because your back gets stiff after a while when you're laying in them racks. So I used to put my arms out like over the pillow and hanging out, and that would stretch the muscles in my back. And when I woke up, I felt good. It felt like I was rested. and he come down. They were talking, fooling around, and he popped the bullets out of the casing. He knew to push that. He got rid of the rest of the bullets, but he forgot about the one in the chamber because they were talking and fooling around. And he turned around this way. It was partially over his head, and he squeezed the trigger, to see if it was empty. And the bullet went off, and I was laying like this, and it went right past my arms and my head. It just missed me, and it went right into one of the lockers where the sergeants. They live, they got the sergeants, corporals. When I was a corporal, they stuck me in there. I wanted to be with my buddies, but you have to go there. You're an NCO. And the bullet missed me, but I was laying sound asleep. He woke up half the place. But I didn't hear nothing, but I didn't even hear the boom, boom, boom from the big guns when we were late at night and they were just shooting as they were going.
That's garbage trucks. Sorry, guys.
When they were going out at sea and they were practicing, they would practice. Believe it or not, they would practice even though they're actually doing it, but they practice every once in a while to get people. Certain people would come, so the Navy would take it then. The young kids would take it then. They let me sleep them times because I was playing every day, right up to 10 o'clock. I was playing the bugle. And they went up there for that time so I could sleep. And that was like an early, just certain people would come out and man their weapons and all, and the no bugles, not until reveille. So that guy would stay up there, and he would play a certain call for them to come out, and I forget what the call was, but he would play it, and I would never hear it. For some reason, I would sleep right through it. I slept through the cannons too when they were firing.
Well, you were up almost all the time.
Well, every day I was up at 10 o'clock, and I was getting up at 5.
Yeah.
And I laid there sound asleep, and the rest of them, the guys beneath me, they're all looking for bullet holes. They heard the shot.
They thought you got hit.
And they looked at me, and I was so silly. They killed Kubik, and the guy. They didn't want to touch me. They were both shocked because I wasn't moving, and I was sound asleep, not a noise out of me, and my arms were just hanging like this. So they assumed I was dead. Mm-hmm. And they said, "What are we going to tell them?" And they just, you should have checked the chamber. You should have checked the chamber before you pulled the trigger. He says, "Yeah, I know." And they're screaming and hollering, and I'm listening to all this noise, and I'm wondering what the hell's going on. And I turned my head around, and I said, "Just shut the hell up and go to bed." And they all stopped talking, looked at me, and it cleared. The whole place was absolute silence, and they cleared, and they didn't even tell me until the morning. And they said, "Want to show you something?" And they brought me in. There's one sergeant brought me in. He was laughing. He says, "You are something else." He says, "God bless you. It's a good thing you didn't move. You laid the way you did." And he says, "You see that hole in that locker?" And he opened it up. The thing was right in, up against the back of the thing that lays against the metal. Mm-hmm. You see it spread, bent up. And the one guy said, "We're going to leave it there in commemoration of you."
Do you remember when we went to visit the Jersey, and you took the tour guide down, and it's a little different because they remodeled it for Vietnam.
Yeah.
But what did we find in the hole, in the wall, when you opened the locker?
A hole.
Right where
there was a hole right in the locker where the bullet went in.
Yeah, it's in the back of the
back of the
wall. There's a ding in the
closet.
Wall. Yeah.
Back of the closet. It's stuck right there. Yeah. It's flatness.
It was different, and you said it should have been right about here, and you opened up something. I think it was a locker, and there was a ding in the wall of the ship, in the hull of the ship. And you said, "There it is." And they didn't believe it. They were shocked because all these years they've been giving tours there, and nobody realized that was there. Or
they didn't realize that was a bullet hole. They didn't know what it was.
Hole. Yeah. How about when your mother read in the newspaper that Jersey was hit?
Jersey, yeah. Well, they did this propaganda so that we could catch some of the planes coming out. Yeah, the captain was he was a go-getter.
What was his name?
Melson. I think it was Melson, Captain Melson. and he treated me like a father because he had nobody to talk to. He said he can't talk to the officers because then everybody thinks they're brown nosed and they're trying to get a raise in their position. But I'm the low guy in the totem pole, and I don't know what happened, but I made corporal. For what reason, I don't know, but they made me a corporal.
Yeah, back then they didn't just make you...
No, I was PFC.
You didn't just get, like now,
it was hard
all
to
you
get,
got to do is wash a floor and you get a raise.
When you came out of boot camp, it was hard to get a PFC, a first class, first class. And so I was smart. I knew when I read the books and things I had to learn, I learned them because I figured I got to do it. When I was in boot camp, I always got hammered in the head when the sergeant was talking to me. Whether I did something or I had a bad habit, I smirked when somebody was being yelled at, and some of the things that sergeants were saying, I would smile. And I couldn't stop it because to me it was ridiculous. And I would smile, and I'd try to keep a straight face. And they would come and yell at me for, "What, do you think this is funny?" And I'd get a punch in the head. And my head would rock back, but I had the utility cap on, so luckily a couple of times the hat went off. But to punch you right here, and your head goes back like that, and they're standing right up against you like here, and even when if they're spitting while they're talking, you're getting it all over your face. But I could stand there, and they could scream and holler, and I just look right through them like he wasn't there. And that's why I didn't show no sign of fear or no sign of funniness. I just stared like I was dead. And they couldn't understand that. They were trying to break me because they figured I might break in combat,
Right.
But I would stand there, and when it came to firing on the field with the weapons, I was getting good scores until this one kid was in tears because he couldn't hit let alone hit the target. He couldn't hit it. So he couldn't get the bullseye. He couldn't get the bullseye because he couldn't hit the freaking target.
He couldn't pass the test for shooting,
He was in tears because he was flunking out. And they would take him out. They would put him in some other kind of unit. If you can't shoot, you can't go in a fight. What are you going to do? You're just shooting at the guy and you hit the dirt and they finally kill you? So he was crying, and I asked him, and I felt sorry for him. And he says, I can't even hit the freaking sign, let alone get a bullseye. He says, and I'm going to lose it. I'm going to leave all my friends, and I don't know what they're going to do with me. So I said, look, I'll tell you what, I'm on target 1. We were both on B, whatever for the shit.
Yeah, you don't remember
for the fire.
What it's called.
Yeah, I don't know what it was.
The range.
The range, right. I was in B range, and I was on number 1, he was on number 2, and I said, look, I'll do you a favor. I'll shoot your target. You shoot mine. At least try to hit it. And I knew I was a good shot. I always had good scores. So on the day you're going to be looked at and
certified.
Certified, right. I shot his target, and he got a fantastic, record. And he was shooting at mine. What the hell he was hitting? It sure as hell wasn't the target. And
what happened to you?
I got a zip. Well, I was put at the end of the line with 2 other guys. We had to march with our hats on backwards, with the peak on the back, and with the weapon we had to hold it down like a hunter. You hold it like a dumb hunter. You don't know how to hold your weapon. And the rest of the guys would march with their weapon on there.
Right.
And 3 of us would be in the back. We were punished this way. But then the sergeant, somehow he realized what happened. And he said, he must have said that I was shooting target 2. Because he says, look at this guy's record. And when they came out, they said to me, they gave me a different score. On the last time I shot before I went out there to shoot for this show. So the last time I shot, that's what they put in my record, and not the 0 that the guy did for me. But that poor son of a bitch, he went to Korea. God knows what he hit. But, he could
Well,
have
you all went to Korea. You just
I was
fought on
going
a
to
ship.
Korea.
You were on a ship, being shot at 24/7.
Yeah, I was going to go to Korea with the rest of the troops. That's what we were made for. And with the score I had, they found out I played bugle or trumpet, and they said, "Well, let's use them as a field music." So I when they told me when we were all going to Korea, they said, "Call me back in." They figured if I couldn't hit an enemy, at least he could play the calls, And I couldn't understand what happened. I didn't realize it was because of the score. So they made me go to field music in Paris Island, and all the rest of my buddies and all went to Korea. They went to California first, advanced training, and then they went over to shoot the war out.
But then you ended up on the Jersey, firing the 9 inches.
I fired the 40s, and then we fired the 40s for practice because no airplanes came out. And then the 5-inch, they stuck me in there. And then the Navy didn't want to be on a bridge, so they talked to me one day, and they asked me, I said, well, you're going to have to check, get your officer to talk to my captain and tell him. And that way this can happen. So what they did is the one day they were waiting for the sailors to come up. They told me, you're going up, so go on up, because the sergeant came in and said that the Navy said you're going to go up and play too. So it's your turn today. So I went up with the bugle, dressed with what I was supposed to. I went up there, and the funny thing is I thought when you went up there you had to have your khakis on. And well, I went up there after that. I played the calls, and the captain liked me. What
about because they came, your mother read the newspaper, the Jersey.
Said a hole, and they actually had a picture.
It got hit, but there wasn't a hole.
No, they had a picture of a hit near the bow of the ship, which is the front, and it looked like a black hole. And we're all looking at it. They got the papers, you said.
Your families were sending you.
We got papers. And they, it showed a hole in it, and we're all looking. Where the hell's a hole? There's no hole in the
because
ship.
you got hit, but it didn't put a hole in it.
No, it bounced off turret 2. There's this turret 1, this is turret 2. It came like this, and it went bong, and just bounced off like a ball. If it had went this way, it would have blew up. But the way it was coming down this way. So it just bounced and went off. And it made a mark in a thing there. Its skid mark was good. And of course the guys that were working it were wondering what the hell happened. And I was there when it bounced. And
where did you used to take your naps? Do you remember telling me where you used to? You used to lay on something down in the
Marine quarters?
No, you used to lay in the ammo and lay on it, and they'd ask you why you were on the gunpowder, and you said, well, if we get hit, I won't know anything.
Oh, yeah, and when I was in the 5-inch.
Yeah.
When a 5-inch, I laid close to see the powder room was right beneath you. And I used to sit on the side of the deck there and fall asleep. When we weren't doing it, we'd be there for 6, sometimes 8 hours and not firing a shot. And you're sweating because it's hot in there. And I used to say, well, I'm going to sit down because I had to put the shell in. So if they wanted us to go and put the shell in, the bugle, they would say, man your stations. And I'd automatically jump up and, wait for the guy down below to send up the shell. He'd send it up, I'd grab it, shove it in the hole, and the other guy, as soon as I got it in, I'd get my hand out of the way, he'd shove the casing in, and I'd slam the thing behind him.
So you would take a nap, though, and,
I was taking a nap.
And everybody called you crazy.
Yeah, they said, what are you doing? And everybody was shifted to one part of the 5-inch, and I sat right down where the ammunition came up. I don't care if you're on that side of the thing or you're outside of the thing. If that hits that position,
it doesn't matter where. The whole place is going up, like the Arizona.
Yeah,
right.
It's going to go up, and that's when aboard ship, a lot of guys were afraid there. If this thing sinks, where are you going to go? Even if you could say, who's going to pick you up? Me, and I'd look at him and say, hey, if this thing gets hit and blowing up, half of us are going to be dead anyway, so the rest of us are going to be losers if nobody's there to pick them up. They're going to
Right.
drown.
Yeah.
So what are you worried about? To accept it. You're going to be dead or drown. And they looked at me and said, that's a hell of a way. I said, well, what are you going to sit there and worry every day when you come up here? I said, the hell with it. If you get hit, you'll never know it. The next thing you know will be Jesus say, hey, boys, glad to see you.
Do you remember when we went and picked the boys up? They were honor Marines, and we picked them up from Camp Lejeune.
I don't
and
remember.
you don't, but you looked at me and you said, oh, you sleep in buildings? Because what did you sleep in basic?
Basic tents. 5-man tents. Rain or shine. We had five men tents. And was it 5 or 8? Well, I think it was 5-man tents, but could have been 8. But
You were real surprised. You said, you guys have buildings?
Yeah, it has. You have a cushion on a rack that's canvas. You open up, and the cushion is on that, and you put your sheet and all up there. You make a bed, and you lay on that thing, and of course it warps like that, you know, when you lay on it. And I'm trying to remember, did I have a mattress, or did I just lay on this thing? But anyway, it wasn't a bed. It was one of them wooden things you open up with the canvas top that holds you in it. And I slept there for 3 months. I was sleeping in that thing.
What do you always tell people how did you get into the Marine Corps?
My friends and relatives invited me.
Right?
And I went to the service, and my father was a soldier in the First World War, and my brother was in the Navy.
He was in the Army Corps of Engineers.
Yes, and my brother was in Navy. He was stationed aboard a ship.
And your brother ended up in Normandy, the invasion, and he was blown out of 6 transports trying to get soldiers to the land.
Yeah, I can't remember that.
I do. And he was only 17. Your mother lied about his age.
Yeah, and I figured I'm going to pick soldier because my dad, he was proud of it being a soldier, and I figured my brother, I thought he would go in the Army, you know, but he went to the Navy because he knew you got better life in the Navy aboard ship. So I went in and I picked soldier, and we were all getting ready. All the soldiers were going to training in what was it, Long Beach, California, wherever it is the Marines go. And
No,
they
you
check advanced
soldiers
training.
go, yeah.
They give you advanced training for hand to hand and all that stuff. So when you get over there, you could fight your way out and save your ass.
Somebody came out and asked if you're smart enough.
Yeah, somebody came out and they said, if your points and your scores are up to what we want, you could be a Marine. So anybody here wants to be a Marine, raise your hand and we'll check your record. So I figured, well, that's a good idea. My father was a soldier, my brother was Navy. No, neither one can get mad at me or feel hurt. I'll be a Marine. So I raised my hand. And they went, I was a pretty smart kid. And I went, I was 20 years old. And they went out and they came and started calling names. And they called my name, my buddy's name, Frank Capazinski. And he used to live next door to me in Napoleon Street in Newark. And they called him out. And then all at once they hollered, see, he was Capazinski. It's K-A. I was K-U. So I was, he shook my hand. He said, I'll see you, buddy. I said, oh, take care. And he said, I wish I was going with you. I said, don't worry about it. And then they called the next name. They got Kubik, and I'm a Marine now. Okay, this was great. But for the first, when I got to Paris Island, for the first 3 months, I thought I was a prisoner of war because they kept punching me in the head and yelling in my face. And I didn't believe it. But I'll tell you what, when you got done with there and you were in action and there was a machine gun nest up of a hill firing down on you, and this man in command said, Kubik, you, and you go up there and take that machine gun out of there. I said, we get up and we run up. We would go up there and try and get it. Mm-hmm. I said, we never thought we were going to get killed. We were told to go get it, and we go get it.
Do you remember the gnat story in basic training? The gnat in your eye?
Oh yeah, these little bugs. They used to get you. You're standing at attention, and at certain times of the day, these things were all over the place, and the sergeants knew it too. And what they would do is get you out in the field where they know they're going to be. And I was standing there, we're all at attention, and they're yelling and telling us what a bunch of idiots we are. And one of them bugs got in my eye. He's crawling in my eye, and I'm blinking my eyelid, trying to get him to get out. And I'm blinking it. And the one sergeant knew what it was, because that's what they put
That's
us there.
why they did it.
Yeah, he run up there again. What are you trying to do? Make out with me? Stop your winking. And what's the matter with you? Then I had to holler, sir, there's a bug trying to get my eyes, sir. And he says, where? What eye? And I told him my right eyes. Let me see. And he went like this, and the damn thing got in. He opened my eye with 2 fingers. He just spread my eye apart.
Got in deeper.
And the bug went in, and I had it closed. Then he said, that's better. I guess the bug drowned in my tears. I don't know. It stopped bothering me. But I had a lump there, and later on he said, at ease. And he said, you get rid of the bug. And he said, you're our material. You belong to us, not the bug. So I kept rubbing my eye until I felt there was nothing there, you know. But
you remember them yelling at you, telling you that you know, that tree, that bug, they were here before us.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you kill that bug.
Mosquitoes.
Yeah, mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes, they have some mosquitoes coming to say cooling going into the evening after supper, and they park you someplace where they knew there was mosquitoes, where there was a little puddles of water and they're growing. And then
no, that's parasilent. Yeah. It's a giant puddle with some stuff growing.
And they would stand you there, and I had one biting the shit out of me, and I couldn't move, and I was wiggling my face trying to get them to move, and finally the sergeant come up running at me, and you at it again? What's the matter with you? The mosquito needs to eat too, so leave him alone. I just stood there, and I had to say, sir, aye, sir. And I just stood there and kept my face still, and that little son of a gun was going to hell. I said, but they taught you when you got into combat and they told you to do something, you weren't going to say, I ain't going to do that, I might get killed. You just jumped up and you were told to do it, you will do it. And I said, it helped me a lot when I got out to work. When I did a job, I did it best I could. I said, and I worked for like Jersey Central Power and Light for 50 and a half years. And I started at reading meters, and then I went into meter serviceman, and I loved it because I could do all different kinds of things during the day. And
you also walked the poles, too.
Well, I didn't go up the pole.
Yeah, you used to run the wires.
Oh, you're right. Before I became meter serviceman, I was a ground hand for the fellas that climbed the poles, and I ran the truck. Mm-hmm. I drove the truck, bring them to the stop, get it blocked off so nobody could get hurt, put the cones out, get what they need when they get up there, make sure I get the rope out for them by the pole so they could take it up with them, and then I would run up the bucket with whatever they call for, and I used to work sometimes 3 poles. I'd be parked at the center pole, I'd have to run up, and I mean run up. The guy was hollering for something, I had to run up, raise it up on a pole, give him what he needs, and give him a little extra, and then run back and for the center pole, or pass him and go get the other pole. But the foreman I had said he never had a driver like me so conscientious. And
it's all because you were a Marine.
And because I was trained that this is your job, you do it the best you can.
When you were in basic training, one time one of your DIs jumped you about something and said, doesn't anything affect you? And you said something that both our boys have used, and said, sir, you don't know my mother.
Yeah, that's it. He came at me and gave me a lot of heat. And
doesn't anything bother you?
Yeah, and I said, no, sir. I said, you don't know my mother. And I brought, the whole troop left, started laughing. And they were screaming then. They all started laughing when I said, sir, you don't know my mother. He said, what's the matter? Ain't tough enough for you here? And I said, sir, you don't know my mother, sir. And the group broke up. It was a rough day, and they all broke up. And the sergeants, the head sergeant, we have 3 sergeants. One was in charge of the other 2 sergeants. He had like 3 stripes. The other ones had, he had 3 with 1 rocker, and the other ones would have their 3 stripes on their sleeve. So he was 1 step ahead of him, and he was in charge. He was the head sergeant. And he was laughing too. He walked over. The guy punched me in the head. He punched me in the head, and my hat went back like that.
So tell everybody your name.
My name?
Yeah.
My name given to me was Theodore Donald Kubik. And senior, I had it later when I had his son, because they named him Teddy after me. And
you were a United States Marine during Korean War.
I was during the Korean War. And you
were on the Battleship New Jersey.
I got transferred because I played trumpet. All my friends that went to Korea, I don't know how many of them that didn't come back because it was rough over there.
Well, you had it rough too. You were being shot at too.
Yeah, well, mine was lucky.
You were...
I wasn't going to get wounded.
Yeah, you were either going to get killed.
Yeah, that's what I looked at it. That's why I took it. That's what kept me calm. I said, if it hits the thing, I'll never know it, and I'll get to meet Jesus. And I hope I've been good enough that I can stay there. You guys
took a lot of shelling.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they fire and then we moved, and then they battled the ships like we saw the destroyer.
Yeah.
The destroyer used to travel with us. And they could move in the water. They move faster. Of course, we're dragging a lot more steel than they are. They would shoot in towards the shore as close as they can get and open fire with their, I think they have 1 5-inch gun, and they have machine guns for the planes. Mm-hmm. It's not like rocket.
It's not a battleship, yeah.
No, it's not. Them 40s fire a shell. It's a shell that comes off it's like a big bullet, and the shell, the powder keg blows that shell out, and if that hits an airplane, it tears the hell out of it.
Right.
And there was no worry. We only had that one time when the plane came out, we all got ready, and all the guns aimed for that plane. That poor guy would be like a mosquito trying to go through a flame. Mm-hmm. Because they would everybody fired him.
And you shelled the ground. You backed up the troops on the ground. They tell you where those landed, and that's what you did.
The Marines on the shore would tell us where this, like Anchor Hill, they called it Anchor Flats when we got done with it. It was one of the worst hills for killing the Marines and the Army. If the Army was there, no Marines were there because they were in contact with the ship all the time. And they would tell us where to hit it, and they must have had somebody there that could tell you the exact the longitude and latitude, mm-hmm. and they'd let you know, and the guys in them, then the 5-inch guns would go. They know just how far they're going to shoot this thing, and they'd open fire, and then the guys in the 5 inches would be loading it. That one be gone. They've already started loading the next one.
Right.
The casing would fall out. You'd open it up and the fall hit the deck. You grab that, throw it aside. You grab the shell. That would hit the deck. The other guy that's across from me that put the powder casing, take that casing and throw it to the side and grab a new one from the other guy. And I'd be grabbing the shell itself, shoving that in the gun. He'd shove that powder keg right behind my hand, and if I didn't get my hand out of the way, I was going to lose fingers. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, if he didn't get his hand out of the way, he was going to lose a hand because I slammed the breech. I slammed it shut, and I would lock it. And then the man that was there he had the speaker in his hand and the earphones so he can hear them.
Where it's got to go.
Yeah, we're ready to fire. He'd holler, ready to fire. And
Ready,
then,
lock, load,
and then he'd
fire.
Up there, they would give him
Load, lock, and fire.
Right, and then they'd fire the shell out. And as soon as that shell was gone, I'd open that breech, and the casing would fall out, and they'd be handing me another shell. I'd be shoving it in. The guy already threw the bat on the way, and he's grabbing a good one, shoved that right in my hand. It was constantly just doing that.
Let me ask you something. When you came home, nobody gave you parades.
No, we got nothing.
You got nothing. You came home and
I had
you got a
funny
job.
thing that happened when I came home. We lived in a house that had in a walk-in closet where you put your food and your canned food and all that sort of stuff. There was a door on the floor, and you would lift that up and hook. You would lift it up and hang it up on a hook, and then you would go down there and take care of the heater, make sure the water wasn't reaching the heater. So we'd go down that way, and my father and I'd go first because it was going to hit the electricity. I didn't want my father to get killed.
Right.
So I'd go down first, and then I'd open the door and let the water out. And because for some reason, where our trough was taking the water out, it would come up there when you had a bad storm. So we would have to open the door, and it'd go right out the door because it was tilted.
Right.
And so I would rush down there first because I said to my dad, I can move faster than you, Pop. And I said, hold the door, and I'd run down there and through the water, and I'd take the door, open it up, and the water just go whoosh out the door and down the hill. And I'd hook the door open so it wouldn't close, and the water then would come back, but it'd go right out. It wouldn't go up because the heater was down there.
There was an explosion or a bang one night.
Well, one night we had a backfire, and was it night or morning? I think it was morning, early morning, because my father and mother used to get up at 5 o'clock. I used to get up at 6 because I was used to getting up at 5, but they forced me to stay in, and it was like me having the Navy playing the calls, so that when an alarm went, it was my turn to get up. No problem. It was like the guy saying, Kubik, get up, you're on duty. And the water got close to the thing, and it backfired. It went to fire the flame for the furnace, and the water was there, and it went boom, and I heard a rattle, and I jumped out of the bed. I ran to the closet. I opened the door, ran in it, got up, opened the thing, and my father was hollering my name. And he would call me Kubik because he knew I was sticking on the Marine. I ran down the cellar barefoot, water on my feet. I opened the hatch and I threw it just like I was clearing out the
shells.
The shell room. I was doing like I was in a 5-inch. And I realized when I hit that cold water, and I ran over there and I opened the hatch, and I went, what the hell am I doing?
Your father said, Marine.
Yeah, and he hollered for me, and I turned around and looked, and he had a smile on his face, and he says, you thought you were in a 5-inch, didn't you? I said, yeah, it was kind of wet too. And he laughed, and we both laughed, and my mother said, geez, I never seen him move so fast in my life. And my father, because he was sitting at the table, they were having breakfast. And I come saying, I was like 5:45, so my alarm didn't go off yet. But he heard that slam boom, and he was going to go down to see what it was. But it was the water coming up, and it backfired. And it sounded like a shot, like a cannon shot. But after that, I had no more problems.
No.
I never had nothing.
You just fight all night in your sleep.
Well, see,
if you hear something explode like a transformer, you're up. What was that? What was that? So yeah, you had no more problems, but you still have problems.
Yeah.
It's the Marine Corps birthday. Happy birthday, Semper Fi.
Semper Fi. HOOO-RAAAA.
HOOO-RAAAA. Thank you for serving.
My pleasure.
Thank you.